Alright guys, welcome to our first video officially in the new studio. We actually just wrapped up filming some pickups for my travel vlog, part 2 of the travel vlog, but this is our first kind of cooperative video in the new studio. Kaz, say hi.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have got the studio set up with you, and I'm glad that you're on this side of the country.
My old fat ass could not have set up this studio myself. I have so much thanks for Kaz here for just, doing a lot of the heavy lifting. This furniture was heavy and it took a long time to build, a lot of time on my hands and knees and bent over, and this old body's not built for that sort of thing anymore. You can't see all of it, obviously, in the camera frame, but there are 5 bookshelves, a desk, and a couple of other pieces of furniture, like my cool spinner rack here for my Nintendo Powers. I did feature the spinner rack back in Edmonton. This is one of the few things that I brought with me in terms of furniture from Edmonton because it's just so cool. I used to have some comics in it, but it's perfectly sized for magazines, and so I've got most of my Nintendo Power collection in here now. Not all of it, but I actually picked up these Nintendo Powers a couple days after I moved back to Ontario from a guy on Facebook Marketplace. He was selling like 40 of them, and I got them pretty cheap.
That's pretty awesome, honestly. I've always been interested in the Nintendo Power since I've heard about them. It's a really cool way to get all these cool game tips and information about new games and stuff, and I kind of wish they still did them the way that they used to.
It's a piece of history, to be able to... I love gaming magazines anyway. I've been collecting them for a long time, but I really try to get Nintendo Powers cheap whenever I can because they're going up in value like crazy. Like at Final Boss in Edmonton, they're trying to sell like an individual run-of-the-mill Nintendo Power for like $25 for one magazine. Like, they're pricing them like they're strategy guides and like good strategy guides or something. But yeah, these I managed to pick up for a couple of bucks a piece. And if you really, if you really do your diligence and go out there and hunt between thrift stores and Craigslist if you're in the States and that sort of thing, you can find lots of Nintendo Powers for $2 or $3 a book, no problem. Maybe not so much the older ones. I mean, a lot of people do know what they have, so if you're looking for stuff from the NES and Super NES era, you're probably going to be paying closer to $10 a book for those. But
$20 a book is still quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially for the newer stuff.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. I mean, basically the GameCube and Wii era stuff is not really worth much. It's not all that desirable, although that is actually my favorite to collect for because that's some of my favorite eras. I mean, as you can see from my collection here, I don't really collect cartridge games. I'm not really into the NES and SNES. I like some of the games, don't get me wrong. I just don't like collecting cartridges.
At least the old ones, yeah, the ones that don't have cases, like the DS and the Switch and stuff. Those are some new collections you've been getting into.
Yeah, I don't mind cartridges for the newer consoles. I mean, like the old stuff. Like, I do have a few Sega Genesis cartridges off screen here, and I have a TurboGrafx, which is up here off screen. So, I do collect some cartridge stuff, but I'm pretty choosy with it. Because it doesn't display well on a shelf, for one thing. And for another thing, at approaching 30 plus years old, a lot of these cartridges, doesn't matter how much you blow on it or clean it with Q-tips or whatever, there's just so many problems getting the games to even boot up in a lot of cases. And then you've got glitching problems, and you've got quality of life issues, like you can't save in a lot of these games. Even games that were intended to be saved, a lot of times the clock battery is dead or something, and so I really prefer to emulate most of those games on the classic mini consoles or on the computer or on something like a hacked Wii or a PSP or something like that. I'm just really not into collecting that stuff, so...
It's honestly really cool being in this studio. It kind of just feels like being at the center of the hub of nerd.
Well, that's kind of what we're going for here. I mean, we're going for this kind of idea of everything nerd, kind of encapsulating, what it would feel like to drop into a Comic-Con on a day-by-day basis sort of thing. I mean, we've got everything from VHS movies like classic Disney movies and stuff to video games.
Well, there's a PS3, the Xbox, Sega Genesis. There's so much stuff here.
Game guides, comic books. I mean, actually, pull out that Essential Superman encyclopedia right there.
Yeah.
This I picked up actually at the flea market in Edmonton just before I left for $20.
Wow.
And it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, this is a complete, actual encyclopedia. Like, a lot of times when you get these, encyclopedia of this or that, quotation marks as you were doing, it's not really set up like an encyclopedia, it's just a reference book. This is literally, alphabetically listing every single item of the Superman universe. All the enemies, all of his friends, all of the different kinds of kryptonite.
Got an index in the back or something?
It's got a full index. Like here you can see, red kryptonite, black kryptonite, green kryptonite, white kryptonite. And it gives, it's literally exactly like an encyclopedia. So it's super cool because you can just flip this book open at any point to look up alphabetically some question that you have about the Superman universe. I love stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's honestly just... It's wonderful being in the studio. I love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I was kind of going for this in Edmonton, but I didn't have all my stuff in Edmonton, and that's kind of the reason why it's been a couple weeks since we've really put up a video is because it's taken me forever to get all this stuff together. As many of you know, my very first YouTube video, all my video game discs were in binders because I had moved across the country in a small vehicle and I just couldn't take all this stuff with me. I knew that I was going to Edmonton for a limited period of time, a year or two, so I took my games and my consoles, but I left all the cases behind in storage. So it took me several days, actually, of, with your help, digging all the boxes out of the attic and figuring I had to go back to the attic twice to get different boxes that were missed and things like that. And to get all of these games back in their cases, PS1, GameCube, PS2, Wii U, Xbox 360, it took me, there's about 600 games on the shelves behind me, and it took me 2 days to get them all, because they weren't in any particular order either, so it's
you find one game, and then you gotta go find one case, and you gotta do the next game, find the next case somewhere else.
It took forever, and I had all of these Rubbermaid totes all over the living room filled to overflowing with Xbox games and PS3 games and PS1 games stacked up over here, and it was a nightmare. It took a good solid week to get all of this put together. So, super thank you for all of your help.
And how do you feel now to have it all together and finally have what you've been sort of dreaming of the past few months?
It's fantastic to have everything that I care about all in one place, and to be able to have my VHS in the same place that I have my video games and my comic books and everything all together. It just feels fantastic. Not that everything in the world is about the stuff you own. This is not in any way, any kind of flexing or anything. It's just I care so deeply for the ideas that these things represent. I'm so motivated by stories, and the stories that are told in comic books and in movies and in video games. I'm so motivated by stories, and a lot of people are motivated by gameplay.
And a lot of people. There's a whole reason we're nerds. We love the content that we consume, whether it's books, movies, video games, whatever you might be, we nerd out over these amazing things, or even the history of these things, and to have a shelf you can point to and say, hey, I have that from 1984, and, this is how it was developed, and, it's in my collection. It's just really cool.
I think down here somewhere... Corey, I did a video a few months ago, a $100 mystery box unboxing, and Corey sent me a couple of paperback novels from the 60s and 70s, and it's just so cool to flip through, an old Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan novel, or an old Isaac Asimov book, or something like that, and really feel like you're connected to the past. Audiobooks are great, but sometimes having that physical item in your collection that you can appreciate, and it's fantastic. And do I have too much stuff? Absolutely. And I'm actually planning on, with your help, and I plan to bring a couple of other people on the channel as well, including my cousin Michael that I've mentioned before, because I'm actually going to start doing a series of videos where I purge the collection, especially video games, because I like to keep my video game collection at a place where it's kind of manageable. I don't have endless amounts of space. I mean, aside from, a little bit on the right and left of the camera frame here, I don't have endless amounts of space to store thousands of games. So I like to keep my collection around, under 1,000 games. And there's a lot of stuff here that I'm not going to play. So we're actually going to start doing a series of videos. I'm going to have you on the channel here coming up in the next week or two to go through my Wii and Wii U collection with the goal of getting rid of at least a handful of games. And then I'm probably going to have my cousin Mike come on, and we're going to go through the PS1, PS2, and PS3 collections in probably 2 or 3 separate videos, and do the same thing where we call out like 10 or 15 games, and whether we give them to various people, friends, or whether we donate them to charity or something. But, that's definitely on the docket.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited for that because they might grow into one of my collections.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, we're sitting right in front of the Wii collection right here.
Wii and Wii U.
We can see, I've got approaching maybe 100 Wii games and maybe 25 or 30 Wii U games, which is not huge, but the reality is I'm not going to play all 100 of these Wii games, and, is it okay to have games that you're not going to play? Sure.
Of course.
Yeah. If it's collectible, but when it comes to,
just owning everything to own it because you got it for $2.
Especially with the Wii, when you buy lots, sometimes you go on Facebook and you buy 5 games or 10 games because you really wanted 1 or 2 and the price was right. So you end up with kind of 5 or 6 games that are just kind of bloatware.
Yeah.
And, so it's definitely time to go through those collections one by one and kind of reduce things down.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to tighten up and tidy up collections here and there when you notice you're starting to get a couple of games, a couple of, bloat to the collection. You want to get rid of it.
I really like the idea of keeping everything in the man cave here, not having it spill out into the rest of my house. So I've really tried to come up with ways that I can fit. Not everything fits on these shelves. I've got some things that are actually too big, physically too large to fit on the shelves without adjusting shelf heights and stuff like that, which I may do as time goes on. But, I definitely want to prioritize certain things and kind of, reduce things to the point where everything nerdy that I own is going to fit in this space that you see here.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think we did a good job. I think it looks really awesome. I'm glad to be part of the Everyday Comic-Con, which is basically what this channel is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be fun. I'm actually going to your house tomorrow to be in your Twitch stream.
Mm-hmm. Playing the Elder Scrolls Arena. I'm pretty excited to get back into that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see it because, frankly, Skyrim is one of those games that I've always wanted to play but just never got around to, and I just don't really have the motivation to. I mean, it looks awesome. I remember, watching you play Skyrim when you were 13, 14, whatever, and not really giving a damn at the time because I wasn't really into collecting stuff, but now I actually want to play the game, and
Well, and it'd be cool to see the history of the game before you get into it, too.
Well, exactly. I think I'm going to appreciate kind of looking over your shoulder and seeing some of, where the series came from, because I feel kind of embarrassed at this point as a gaming personality that I haven't played Skyrim, but...
Well, there's so many games, though, that, you can't be expected to have played all of them, even all the big ones. There's so many that I haven't played, too, right? So...
Yeah. But yeah, you can't play everything, but I mean... You want to...
relatively experience the big ones.
I've kind of been thinking now that prices are coming down with the next generation coming out, I may buy an Xbox One X used just for the Game Pass, because there's so many games that I could at least just go in and check out for, it's not free, I guess. You gotta pay for Game Pass.
But it's relatively free. Same way Nintendo Switch Online, NES and stuff is free anyway.
Just to be able to go back and check it, because I have so many games in my in my library here that would also work with the Xbox One X. Right now I've got an original Xbox and a 360 side by side in my room, which I wouldn't need to have either one of those set up if I bought the new Xbox One X. Because, I've got all these games like the Halo games. I've played a fair bit of Halo, played some of Halo 1 and Halo 3 and Halo Reach and stuff like that here and there, but I've not really gone all the way through the series. I haven't played the Fable series. I've only played one Gears of War game all the way through. I think that was number 2 with Cousin Michael. I don't even think we completed that game, but we're pretty close to completed it. So, there's a lot of stuff on the Xbox platform that I do want to try out, so, I don't know. You basically don't play with your PS4 at all, do you?
Not right now. I have so much Nintendo stuff to play, and I've got so many games on my PC to play, right? My Switch is hooked up. I've got the dock on, the living room TV and my little area TV, my studio, so to speak. I've got a dock so I can just put my Switch in either TV. So I've got that collection, plus my DS, plus my 3DS, plus my Game Boy and Game Boy Advance and GameCube, and I want to experience a lot of those games before I really dive into the PlayStation ecosystem.
Yeah, this is why I always stay a generation behind. Like, I'm not really all that fussed about the new generation because I haven't really heavily bought into the existing generation yet even. I usually wait until it's basically expired before I buy in. I did have a PS4 Pro, which you have now, because I wasn't all that interested in it.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I don't really bother with the current generation outside of Nintendo stuff, because, as we talked about in our Console Purist In Review Week 3, game prices go down in a year for anything that's not Nintendo.
Yeah.
And there's no point buying an $80 game that's going to sit on my shelf that's not going to be collectible in a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, any current gaming that I do right now is on my Switch or my Switch Lite. I do have several, I don't really want to get into reviews game by game per se on this channel, but I do have several thoughts on several of the games, and I'm probably going to do in the coming weeks here some kind of, top 10 games to play on the Switch in handheld mode or something of that nature, because I do have some thoughts on some Switch games that I've been playing.
Well, your only real experience with the Switch is the Switch Lite, right? So you really would be a good authority for that, because that's all you've been able to play. So any games that have no good GUI for handheld mode, you'd be the person to know.
Yeah, exactly. And I've really discovered that there's quite a few games that I really want to play on the Switch that I'm going to have to get a full-size Switch for, because games like Dragon Quest XI, it looks fine, but like the text is so small, the interface is so small, it's really hard to see the maps properly. Like, everything's just too small. And same with Dragon Quest Builders, like, it's playable,
but it's just too small. But everything's too small, you can't see it.
Yeah, you can't really see it, and when you're trying to build stuff in Dragon Quest Builders 2, and you're trying to move the little cursor around with your thumbstick, and it's just, like, you just need more real estate for games like that. And that's why I haven't bothered, getting The Witcher 3, because it's too grand of a game.
Now, I would say for The Witcher 3, unless you really want the handheld experience, you should probably get it for another console. I've heard that there's a lot of graphical issues and graphical downgrading on the Switch version, and it'll probably be a lot cheaper on a different console as well.
Yeah,
but if you want it for the collectibleness of it,
well, I don't really have another. Was Witcher 3 on PS3?
I don't remember if it was on I think it was on PS3, but I don't remember.
It was on PS4.
I know it was on PS4 and Xbox One. I just don't remember if it was also console before.
Currently, I don't have another console. Like, I don't have a PS4 because you've got it, and I don't have my Xbox One X because I sold it before I moved. So, there are a few games that I do want to go back to in the current gen, but there's like maybe 10 games that I really want to play on the current gen, and I'm just gonna wait until I can get a console for $150.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not into spending $400, $500 on a console for 10 games that I'm gonna want.
Yeah, 10 games that you probably won't even play until, 10 years down the line anyway.
Exactly.
So,
anyways, guys, so thanks for hanging out with us today. It's been awesome to kind of show you around the new studio here, and a chance to chat with Kaz here. I'm definitely going to be having him on the channel on a more frequent basis now that we're not 3,500 kilometers away from each other.
And vice versa, I'll see you on my channel from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So, and expect to see some other people on the channel too. I've got a friend, Robin, that I'm expecting to, at some point, do some kind of a Let's Play, because we want to do a Let's Play of the Gex game together.
Well, that'll be fun.
That's going to be fun, so I may have to borrow your capture card, because I don't currently have a capture card, or buy one. You have to do that too.
Elgato's, yeah, there's some pretty cheap ones out now.
The HD 60 or something is like $200 or something.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. So, yeah, definitely look into that, and we'll probably... have to set up some kind of a monitor or something in here so that we can, shoot in here. But that's definitely something we're looking at doing in the near future. And as I say, Cousin Mike's going to be on the channel.
Lots of plans coming up. It's awesome.
Yeah, we've got tons of content planned, so don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video, because it really helps out a lot. And by all means, hit that notification bell, because you don't want to miss what we've got coming up.
And definitely check down in the description for any links associated with today.
Absolutely.
So, we'll see you guys next time, and stay classy.
Stay classy.